Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. And at the end of another week and the end of another poll, we have a very clear winner with the Street Fighter Player's Guide for the Street Fighter role-playing game. Now I have briefly covered this before in my video about the Street Fighter role-playing game, which I believe was my 5th ever Retro RPG video, way back 4 years ago. But we're going to go into way more detail about it on the desktop in just a wee second. Now as usual, I'll be back at the end of the video with some other poll related stuff and some other channel related stuff. But I'd like to remind you, if you'd like to help the channel out, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, then there's a Patreon in the description down below. If you click on that, you can see how you can help the channel out, because it'd be very much appreciated. But let's have a look at the Street Fighter Player's Guide. So, this is the Street Fighter Player's Guide from White Wolf Studios in 1995. And it's for, funnily enough, the Street Fighter role-playing game, or the Street Fighter storytelling game. Because this uses the storyteller system, the same as the World of Darkness games, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and so on. And the game itself did seem a bit of an oddity, because White Wolf Studio at the time, and still probably to this day, were mainly known as the World of Darkness people, bringing out the incredibly moody and dark Vampire the Masquerade, which had crossed over with the goth community, got so many other groups into role-playing. And then they brought out the Street Fighter game, based on the arcade game, and it's bright and it's glossy and very, very different to what they've been playing, or what they've been writing. The World of Darkness mainly is a competition as to whose character is more doomed than one another. You know, you're fighting to keep your humanity, you're fighting to overwhelm the beast within you, which will just turn you into a monster. Or you can play Street Fighter and punch people in the face until they die. It's just very different. Now, the story how I got the Street Fighter role-playing game in these is slightly odd as well, because when the game was coming out, for some reason, it was very, very hard to get in the UK. We'd been to our local gaming store. I believe at the time it was the Virgin Megastore we used in Glasgow. And they were like, nope, won't be getting it. It won't be shipped into the UK. But round about that time, I was taking a trip over to America. I was spending a month over there just exploring the country for a while. So my mates loaded up my pockets with their shiny pennies, and I went into various game stores and cleared them out of copies of Street Fighter role-playing game and all these supplements I could get my hands on, including copies for myself, obviously. Now, let's have a look at the back cover. Street Fighter Player's Guide. So you think you're tough. Running the circuit has never been this difficult. See the side of street fighting that few talk about, the undiscovered wilds, the horrid results of men fused with technology, and the keys to unlocking dark sorcerous power. Be prepared for the next time you step into the ring. There's no telling what you'll face. Less than human, more than equal. Street Fighter Player's Guide will explore new facets of street fighting. Discover the truth about Blanka's nature. Learn how to create cybernetically enhanced warriors. Train in new styles and explore new backgrounds. Plus, the book has new information on tournaments, arenas, managers, and sensais. Street Fighter Player's Guide will take your characters to the limit and beyond. Street Fighter Player's Guide will feature new special maneuvers, many never seen before, detailed source material on animal hybrids, cybernetics, plus 2 new styles, new Street Fighter teams which you can play yourself or fight in the ring. So, where the main rulebook explored the arcade game and the various styles of it, this kind of takes it beyond, fleshing out the world into many other beat-em-ups, where you are fighting, you know, cat-human hybrids, and people have pieces replaced by cybernetics. There's one of the characters in Mortal Kombat, isn't there, who has cybernetic arms, and there's definitely the boxer TJ Combo in Killer Instinct, who has cybernetics. Now inside, I really like the bright, colourful style of it. Now, while doing some research on this, I found this mentioned in the worst artwork series on a website. I don't think so. Some of the artwork isn't great. There's some very odd poses, because everybody's trying to be in action poses, but I kind of like it. But we'll have a look as we go through. We start up with Chapter 1, which has a story, and it's by Nigel Finley. Now, I've mentioned him before because he was taken from us at far too young an age. I believe he was about 34 when he passed away. Very, very young, in the mid-90s. He wrote some amazingly good Shadowrun stuff and covered a lot of my favourite games. One of my favourite authors in the role-playing, and just been taken from us way too long now. It's a decent story about a street fighter going into the arena and encountering one of the characters from this book, who's a hybrid crocodile man. And what the hell? I'm supposed to get into an arena with a guy who can bite my arm off? As I said, some of the artwork, very variable in quality. I think this is promotional artwork from the game itself. I believe that's supposed to be Ryu. And we've got the introduction, which talks us through the sections. So we've got inside the ring. There's new styles. So you can create basically new characters with a different fighting style. There's unique backgrounds. So different ways of creating characters. Now, the way I like this is that you don't need a whole host of cybernetic backgrounds. It's just an excuse as to why your powers work. So if you're a street fighter who throws fireballs through martial arts like Ken and Ryu, then that's one thing. But if you want to create a cyborg who has a flamethrower built in, well, basically it's still going to be the fireball ability, but from your background you're going to be saying it's cybernetically created. It's just different ways of describing things. And the animal hybrids are the same. What we got? Up-and-comers. So different Street Fighter groups who aren't the World Warriors. Because the main rules cover the World Warriors, but they are the best in the world. So these are ones which your player characters can actually challenge. They might be a bit tougher at the start, but they're people you're going to end up being able to beat. Then we've got the section on running the circuit. So they mention arenas. Basically, you can have a home base, and you get some advantage from fighting in your home arena. You'll make more money. You even get tactical advantages at the starts of combat because you know the ground so well. There's tournaments. So it explains about the fighting tournaments where Street Fighters are going to get called into. Obviously, adventures can be based around a tournament, but they can just be an excuse for why you happen to be in Moscow in Russia attending a tournament when you get dragged into a different adventure. The staff, because as you become famous, you're going to have a manager and people who sort out your advertising for you, people who medic you up after fights, all the team, somebody just to clean your clothes. Teams and stables, so groups of fighters who work together instead of all being a single unique character. And then we've got beyond the ring. So what happens to characters after they are getting too old to fight or they are wounded out of battle? We've got an appendix with 50 special maneuvers, and it mentions that the guide is supposed to be giving you something for everybody. Some of these pictures have a weird water effect through the colours, which makes them look less cartoony. It takes that step towards reality. I'm not that keen on that, although I do like the style. Again, I think it's promotional artwork, and we've got the inside the ring. So it covers savate, if I'm pronouncing it, a French kickboxing one, which I believe one of the World Warriors used. Was it Balrog or whatever? The guy with the claws. And we've got the different maneuvers that go into it. Mainly these already exist, but some of them are new to this book. Then we've got a character who uses it, Jacques Desroches, in his character sheet. Then we've got ninjutsu, with a new background clan heritage if you're playing a ninja or a true ninja. Developing them, common abilities, talking through the clan ranks and the abilities they get. And then we've got this Yuki Takada character and their character sheet, just a sort of example ninja. Then we're on to the section about unique backgrounds. So we've got animal hybrids, basically explaining why people might have super extra abilities and particularly style ones. I remember, as I said, I bought this when I was in America. I remember sitting on a hotel bed with a pad of paper, creating myself up a rat hybrid. And his special ability was he could spit up acid to dissolve things, and that's what he did in fights. It was just interesting to play around with the ideas. So we've got the animal backgrounds, or unique backgrounds for animal hybrids, you know, from one point where you're just slightly different to you're barely human. Working with it, you know, talks through different things here, what the effects of those would be, you know, whether you've got a tail, you might be able to attack with that, or claws. Just the different effects of being an animal hybrid. Your chance to control it, because the animal might take over. And then we've got Jack, the Street Fighter from the introductory story, a crocodile hybrid, who's actually quite a nice guy. He's a bit dumb, but he's quite nice. And then, as I said, we've got cybernetics. From one point, your enhancements are minimal, and so is their usefulness, right up to you are truly a technological marvel, so your powers exceed your designer's wildest dreams. And it talks through those, the different effects of it. You know, as you become one machine, you can use computers and things better, but you lose track of your humanity. Talks through what parts can be replaced, whether you have additional limbs. And then we've got Paco Juarez, the Ice Pick, a guy with cybernetic arms. Then it introduces elementals, so people who align to a certain elemental plane. So if we carry on, we've got Sapphire here, who is a fire elemental. So their abilities are all based around fire. And we've got lists here of special maneuvers based on air, water, fire, and earth. Then we're on to running the circuit. So it talks about managers, people who will run and book your fights for you. Then we've got arenas, bookies. Oh, sorry, how the manager can arrange arenas. We've got bookies, so you can get winnings from your fights, profit from it. Then it's going through to your staff. So you've got teachers, ring doctors, butlers, photographers, fashion consultants, bodyguards, chauffeurs, pilots, maids. Just building up all this team of people who help you out in between fights. Talks through teams and teamwork. And stables where people train together. And it's got an example stable here of Excalibur Productions. And they've got their manager, independent Nick Fontana, who was also from that introductory story. Harpal Jaiwal. I apologise for my pronunciation. And then another team, Excessive Force, with Major Carnage, Hammer, Anvil, Chimu Nihon, up there from Excalibur Productions, Hikodoshi, Orihime, just lots of sample characters with their backgrounds, like the Competitors book, I believe it's called. We've got a Tiger hybrid here. Spirit of Fire and Water Demon, twins who have fire and water abilities. And then we're on to the arena section, talking us through the advantages of purchasing them, the responsibilities of having an arena, the advantages of them. So, you know, the authorities will look other ways when there's fights going on and people getting hurt, right up to bonuses. You know, you may add +1 to speed, damage, or movement for the first 3 turns of combat. It goes through tournaments, why they might be arranged, different types, so freestyle, mixed, you know, ones where you might use weapons or just purely hand-to-hand combat, depending on how illegal they are. Some example tournaments. And then we've got Beyond the Ring. So we're talking about people who attain true mastery of their street fighting abilities, what they become, their paths of honor, path of glory, and what happens when they retire, setting up training halls or getting married, managing a stable of their own. So creating the story after your character becomes too advanced, too wounded, or too old to continue reasonably fighting in the streets. Then we're on to the appendix, which is different maneuvers and abilities. Now, maneuvers and abilities add to your combat and give you various advantages and disadvantages, but have costs. So we've got a standard sort of Boshiken thumb drive here, punch, which slows you down, it's a -1 to speed, but there's +2 damage. And it has no applicable costs. The Haymakers, no cost again, slow you down by 2, but increase your damage by 4. Remembering that in the Street Fighter role-playing game, there is no roll to hit. Everything goes straight down to damage and resistance. We've got a bunch of fears, you know, eye rakes, dislocate limbs, jaw spins, different athletics-based ones, focus-based ones. So we've got air blasts and balances here. Drain, Death's Visage, Elemental Skin, Flaming Fists, Fire Strikes. As I said, some of the artwork I really like. It's very stylized and people hated it. But I like it. It's kind of cool. It's kind of over the top, like the Street Fighter role-playing games, or Street Fighter's supposed to be. You know, Dalsim stretches his limbs out. Eddie Honda's absolutely massive, but can still leap through the air. This is supposed to be a ridiculous setting, and it's kind of fun. This woman who's got tendrils of barbed wire. And then we come to the back, and there's advert for the Perfect Warrior adventure. And then we've got a cardboard sheet with the various characters from the book, because the combat in Street Fighter often does take on an arena, because where you're moving is quite important. And we've got an advert for Dark Destiny, an anthology of stories set in the world of darkness. So that was the Street Fighter Player's Guide, and that won with an absolutely massive 38% of the vote, which surprised me, because in the early part of the week, the first maybe third of the poll, there was a three-way tie, and I didn't know which way it was going to go. But after that, the Street Fighter Player's Guide pulled ahead and absolutely dominated. So it got 38%. In second place was Spycraft, the James Bond-style role-playing game from Alderac Entertainment, and it got only 25% of the vote. In third place was Rift Sourcebook 2, the Mechanoids, containing information on one of the iconic races or opponents of the Rift setting, with 19%. Then Bangkok's Cesspool of the Orient with only 16%. And in last place with a single vote, getting only 3% of the vote, was Capital, Pride and Profit for Mutant Chronicles, a game, book which has never been popular in any poll it's ever been in. So they're all cleared out of the poll, and we put in a new range. And this time we have Aurora's Whole Realms Catalogue for AD&D. Now this is an equipment guide, but not like the Arms and Equipment Guide that I've covered before, because it contains more quirky, more sort of magical and rarer equipment and items, more specifically to the Forgotten Realms. Second, we've got Infantry Weapons of the World for Twilight 2000. Now I've covered the Heavy Weapons of the World book, but this one covers other games rather than just Twilight 2000 and starts into things like Dark Conspiracy. So as well as assault rifles and handguns and other weapons you have in the post-apocalyptic setting in Twilight 2000, this one has laser weapons and things from other high-tech worlds. We've got the Star Drive Arms and Equipment Guide for Alternity. Now, Alternity didn't come out for long, getting scrapped, but this is an equipment guide for one of the Alternity settings. We've got Hidden Agendas for Aeon Trinity by White Wolf, their superheroes science fiction type role-playing game. Again, something which wasn't very popular, so this might be a bit of a rarer book. And finally, The Last Crusaders for Deadlands Hell on Earth, for the magical, almost paladin-like characters in that particular post-apocalyptic setting. So let's see how the poll goes. In other news, I've not much. I'm still trying to get things together. My plans for, I thought my travelling days were over and I was going to be at home and be able to organise things better, have gone out the window. There's all sorts of family things going on, so my time has disappeared once again. So I'll try and get things organised, we'll try and get things going, if you can bear with me until I get an opportunity to do these plans. But otherwise, I've not much news to give yous, so I think I've probably whittled on for quite long enough. So thank you very, very much for watching, as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.